It's December, and that means Christmas is around the corner. It also means that I have to play the Grinch and ruin some people's holidays. So here we go. There is no version of the Justice League that is a good film. Period. The end. There's nothing else in there. I'm gonna go into why. So I keep seeing all this talk about how Joss Whedon ruined Justice League and that WB needs to release the Zack Snyder cut of the film because that would actually make Justice League a good film. In what universe? Look, I don't even hate Snyder as a director. I actually enjoy a lot of his films. But I also know that an unchecked Snyder makes really bad films. I saw Sucker Punch, and holy hell, that film was bad. And it was bad from like start to finish. But it's the end that really does it. Like, Snyder really thought he was making a women's empowerment film. Instead, it was just an offensive piece of trash. See, I think a lot of people confuse Snyder's like his motivation and his enthusiasm with him making good films. So no. So when people say that Snyder's original vision was a better film, I'm trying to figure out what it is. Honestly, part of me thinks they're confusing Zack Snyder with Scott Snyder. Can we finally kill the notion that director's cuts make bad, mediocre films into Oscar-winning territory films? Are the director cuts of films I like more than the theatrical cut? Absolutely. But here's the thing. 100% of those films I already liked. The director cut added in some interesting things and filled in some gaps, but they never really improved the film so much that it went from bad to good. Like, I like the director's cut of Aliens, but Aliens was already one of my all-time favorite films before I even saw the director's cut. The director's cut of Aliens 3 is slightly better and more incoherent than the theatrical cut of Aliens 3. Still the worst film in the trilogy to me, though. Like, that's just what it is. I don't know what it is with comic book fandom that they always think the director cuts makes vastly superior films. The director cut of Daredevil is still a bad film. Just like the theatrical cut is a bad film. Donner Superman 2 cut of the film still has a ridiculous and absurd ending. Just like the theatrical cut of Superman 2. The director cut of Blade Runner still includes that fucking rape scene that's passed off as a touching, loving moment between the characters, so the entire film is still fucking garbage. The rule of thumb I use for director's cut is this. If I already like the film, then the director cut will probably enhance that, and I will enjoy it even more. If I didn't enjoy the original cut, or I enjoyed it but I still thought it was a bad film, the director cut's not changing any of that. Which brings me to the DCEU. 3 out of the 5 films Warner Brothers has released has led to calls from the fandom to release the uncut director's cut. Batman vs. Superman, Suicide Squad, and now Justice League. You know what all 3 of those films have in common? All 3 are not good films. Look, every film made has scenes that are cut. Every film. Most of the time those scenes are cut for a reason. When it comes to the DCEU, there's no good reason to believe that the original cut of the films are vastly superior films that turn these poorly received films into good films. How do I know that? Easy. Because Warner Brothers released a 3-hour R-rated cut of Batman vs. Superman, and it still was not a good film. But Chris, you didn't even see the film. How do you know? You didn't see the ultimate cut. Okay, first off, I know because it's R-rated. You mean to tell me the first appearance of Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman in a live-action film is R-rated? Fuck no, get the fuck out of here. That's not going to be a good film. But beyond that, I've read and watched all the additional scenes without subjecting myself to the entire 3 hours. None of them fix the actual problems of BVS. There's still a giant jar of piss. Jimmy still gets killed for no reason. Batman still falls victim to the most easily to spot manipulations of Lex Luthor. Superman spends the entire film trying to outscowl Batman. The CGI fights are still fucking terrible. It's still too fucking long. Martha still fucking happens. And worst of all, Superman still fucking dies. So no, shockingly, adding more to that film and making it 3 hours long does not make it a better film. Using that knowledge, there's no reason to believe that Snyder's original Justice League cut will be any better for most people. Yes, for those of you out there who enjoyed BVS, you'll probably like it because you like what was going on in BVS, and continuing that on Justice League would be something enjoyable for you. But you already like that. So don't believe me? Fine. All right, let's go through some of the deleted scenes and see if they really improve the film. Let's see. Let's go ahead. Alright, so Snyder's film begins with Bruce recruiting Aquaman. Why? Who the fuck knows? Look, the problem with the Whedon scene added in with the robber in the scene is that Batman let the robber go. That's the problem. Okay, the other problem is Batman's fat, but that's what happens when you do reshoots, alright? The problem with Snyder's scene is there's no context for why Bruce is trying to recruit Arthur at that point. That scene only makes sense later on in the film when you've already established why Bruce is looking for the mother boxes. You need that scene on the roof with him with the parademons to do that. Look, I love Kirstie Clemons. I think she would have been a great Iris, but this scene is completely unnecessary. You only need this scene to establish that Barry's a hero, but we already knew that. We saw him in Suicide Squad in the suit stopping Captain Boomerang. So what does this scene actually bring to the table as far as Barry as a character? Absolutely nothing. There's no other mention of Iris in the movie, so this scene doesn't need to happen. For getting to the core of Barry's character, we get that with his father in jail. That's what that is for. Adding Iris into this film just adds more to the film, and there's nothing there. And actually, the actual scene itself with him breaking the glass and running through, the effects aren't even that great. So I don't even know why we need this scene. So, did any of this need to be in the film? No. Look, we're told through a conversation between Victor and Silas that Victor was in an accident, and Silas did what he thought he had to save his son. The tension between Victor and Silas is enough. We don't need to see the football game. We don't need to see Victor complain to his mom that his dad wasn't there. We don't need to see the car crash. None of those scenes add more to the character. They just visualize what we were already told. They're pointless scenes. Just like the Barry, just like the Cyborg scenes, none of this actually fixes any of the problems people have with the development of this character. The problem with Aquaman isn't that we don't understand his relationship with Atlantis. It's that no one has any idea what Aquaman, Jason Momoa, is pulling his character traits from. And that's not Jason's fault. That's Snyder. Of course, I wouldn't expect much from a guy who once called into a radio show to defend how awesome Aquaman is, and the best we could come up with is that Aquaman's trident can cut Superman's skin. I shit you not. That actually happened. Seriously. Anyway, the whole point of this scene is to show that Arthur feels responsibility to protect the people on the surface. But we already got that understanding in the scene with Bruce. Bruce talks about a man who comes in on the king tide and brings fish to the feet and feeds his village. That tells you right there all you need to know about Aquaman. Do we need to hear Mira ask him to stay to be king? No. Do we need to see Valko? No. Neither of those parts of the scene add anything to Arthur's character or tie into what's going on in their story in the rest of this film. Everything about this scene has to do with setting up for a solo film. And that leads to a bigger problem that happened with all three of these scenes I just talked about with Barry, Cyborg, and now with Aquaman. The deleted scenes for all three characters have zero to do with character or plot in Justice League and everything to do with plot points for their solo films. That's why they were cut. These scenes are all about looking ahead to solo films, two of which don't even have release dates. But this is always going to be the problem with trying to do intros for brand new characters that weren't already established in the DCEU in a film like Justice League. It would have been one thing if these characters were already established as already being, seasoned heroes. But that's not what they did in the DCEU. This is basically their origin, and they're trying to do origins for three characters while also trying to resurrect Superman, and that was never going to be a good idea to make this film or to make a coherent film to begin with. Particularly when none of these scenes directly tie into what's going on in the movie. Cyborg is the closest, since he was brought back by the mother box, but the deleted scene has nothing to do with that. It's literally just telling the story of his accident. Barry and Iris have absolutely nothing to do with the story. It's only meant to get people to think Iris and Barry belong together, which not only has nothing to do with the story of this film, but considering that a week after this film was released, the CW was doing their own giant Justice League crossover and centered on Barry and Iris getting married, you have to wonder, what was the purpose of this scene? And the Aquaman scenes? Again, the inner workings of Atlantis have nothing to do with the plot of Justice League. It would be something different if they try to tie it in some kind of way, and maybe the attack had Arthur talking to his brother and asking for help and then being denied that help. But that's not what actually happened here. All three of these scenes are just disjointed solo movie setup scenes that make Justice League longer and do not make it a better film. But let's continue. Come on, yo. You guys gotta be shitting me. The nightmare sequence in BVS was dumb to begin with. Trying to tie it into the Justice League just was even dumber. Yeah, okay, so there were parademons, and we did see the John Omega in that scene, the tie to Darkseid, but the biggest thing in this nightmare sequence in BVS was Batman versus Superman. Batman had a bunch of followers, Superman did too, and them colliding together. How does any of that tie in the Justice League? It doesn't. Well, Steppenwolf was trying to resurrect the power of Superman. Huh? When? Where are any of the theatrical scenes, or even better, where are any of the leaked cut scenes that show Steppenwolf having any interest in resurrecting Superman? It doesn't. It doesn't exist. This scene was cut because it makes no fucking sense, and it ties into an even dumber scene in BVS. Come on, give it a fucking rest, guys. Speaking of Steppenwolf, look, I get it, people. People really want to believe that the cut Steppenwolf scenes with him explaining more about his mother being trapped in the mother boxes and wanting to get an edge over Darkseid would make him a better villain. But I have one question about that. Does he still look like a terribly rendered CGI Billy Goat in those scenes or not? Because that's the real problem with Steppenwolf, right? He looks terrible in every scene he's in. Sure, this scene adds more depth to the character, but guess what? He still looks terrible, so nobody would give a fuck. Here's the other thing. The weak villain issue with Justice League isn't why it's a bad film. Plenty of other films get good to great reviews and have weak villains. Days of Future Past actually has no real villain in it. Logan doesn't have a good villain. Hell, the second Wolverine film got better reviews than Justice League, and it also has a really bad CGI villain in it. The MCU has been plagued with weak villain complaints, yet still get good reviews. Why? Because in most cases involving superhero films, we care about the hero, not the villain. In Justice League, we're all here to see the heroes come together, and Steppenwolf is just a poor soul who drew the short stick to get them together. Could he have been better? Sure, absolutely could have been better. Not saying he couldn't have been. But if the rest of the film was good, we wouldn't care. I know I definitely didn't care about the story. Even with this film, I didn't care. I said in my room, he's a weak villain, but I don't really care. But we should care about how terrible he looked. And how bad his action scenes were. Shit, the scene with the Amazons was so bad. That's always been the Achilles heel of the DCEU. BVS had an all CGI villain at the end. It was terrible. Suicide Squad did too. Didn't look good. Wonder Woman did as well. But here's the thing about Wonder Woman. Even with the weak villain, the terrible CGI infight, the rest of the film is still good enough thanks to the characterizations of Diana that we don't care about the weak villain. So no, adding more of Steppenwolf's motivation does not all of a sudden make this a good film. He still looks terrible, first of all. And that's going to trump anything with his motivation. It just is. Oh my goodness. Look, I love this one because apparently Kevin Smith was really pissed about this one. I like Kevin Smith. I like his movies. I think he's actually a good... I love when he did a couple of directing ships on like the CW shows. Great. But Kevin Smith cannot be trusted on things like this. His fandom and love of these characters gets in the way of what I know he knows works and doesn't work in a movie. The scene with Deathstroke breaking Lex out of prison happens in the middle of the film. Please explain to me how putting Deathstroke and Lex in the middle of a Justice League film where they have no other role in the film makes any sense. See, this is where people's fanboy and fangirl excitement blinds them, when it comes to the basics of filmmaking. They just want to see Deathstroke. That's what you want to see. You don't care about it actually being a good film. This scene basically introduces a new character in Deathstroke, brings back an old one that nobody cares for in BVS, and a plot point that adds zero to the current story. You just want to see Deathstroke, and that's fine. But telling me putting that into the film makes it a better film? No. Again, it's more bloat. It distracts from the plot, and it would make it a bad film. It just would. Come on, guys. Gotta do better. So first of all, how the fuck is an after credit scene gonna make a film better? So already right there, it's already done. Secondly, can we even talk why this scene even exists? Let me get this straight. The Green Lantern from Sector 2813 and Sector 674 meeting with Bruce fucking Wayne? Why? Where's the Green Lantern from the Earth Sector 2814? Oh, that's right. They haven't cast anybody to be Hal Jordan or Jon Stewart or Kyle Rayner or even Guy fucking Gardner. They don't have anybody. But good old Zack Snyder wanted to put a Green Lantern in this film because Zack Snyder believes putting icing on a shit cupcake somehow makes it edible. If it was so important to put a Green Lantern in the film, they could have put an after-credit scene with Abin Sur, ships crashing and his ring flying off his finger, or having some man in the shadows who you don't see his face find the ring. That makes more sense than having two Green Lanterns show up and talking to a regular-ass human being like Bruce Wayne. Fuck it, man. I'd even take it if you had both of these Green Lanterns showing up and they talk to the entire league. But just to Bruce? What the hell is the fucking point? And like I said at the beginning, none of this makes it a better film. At all. None of it makes it a better film. Look, I get it. Folks don't want to believe that Warner Brothers has stumbled this badly with what should be an easy win. I get it. I feel you. I feel your pain. But instead of begging for a Zack Snyder cut of the film that doesn't even exist, and that, even if it did exist, wouldn't make Justice League a better film, how about we all focus on telling Warner Brothers to get their shit together and start actually planning out how they're going to fix this? Now, that would be a good start. Like, telling us how you're going to fix this would kind of get some consumer confidence back. No more making it up as they go along. No more trying to drastically change the film 4 months before release. No more giving the wrong director free reign to paint the entire universe into a corner that they can't get out of. Sit down, put a plan together, then execute it. And, even tell the fans what you plan on doing. Not spoilers, but general idea. Of course, to do that, Warner Bros. First need to fully understand where they messed up. And that's what I'm going to be exploring in the next set of videos. So make sure you subscribe, hit the notify button, and I'll be back real soon to do those videos there. But yeah, guys, stop acting for this film. There's no good cut of Justice League that makes it infinitely better. It's just what it is. I mean, I know people don't want to hear that, but the Zack Snyder cut of the film isn't that much better. The Whedon cut, which is just a rushed 4-month film that's put together to drastically change the film, it's not good either. I mean, this is what it is. It's just you're not going to get any better than this. So the only thing you can hope for is that going forward, Warner Brothers fixes their problems. And I'm going to be honest, I don't even think they know what the problems are. So stay tuned, watch the videos, and I'll be back soon. Thank you guys. Peace.